All right, go.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a... I can't do it. We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
Fireside Chats.
What is up, everybody? It is your boy Lou Martinez, aka Big Chief Burrito, live with you on a Tuesday. Fireside Chats with Big Chief Burrito back. I know I've been focusing a lot on my new podcast venture, Mi Gente Show, but Fireside Chats is still alive and kicking. I'm hoping everybody's having a good night tonight on a Tuesday here from beautiful Southern California, the Burrito Lounge in Chula Vista. Tonight's show is going to be a hybrid 2 a.m. Burrito Fireside Chats as well as an Ed Wood Film School episode because we are talking movies. We're going to get real geeky probably in a little bit, talking indie films, process, all that good stuff. The person that I'm having on is actually kind of another Four Circle interview. We interviewed him and his partners when we had our old podcast, Indie Apocalypse, with my homie Ty Mabry. That was mostly focusing on indie filmmaking, and these kids were just coming up, had just made their first few films back then, and now they're making like a feature every month, it seems like. So I've wanted to have this kid on the show and for a while on this new show and get into it. So without further ado, Mr. Ian Tripp.
What's up, dude?
What up?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for stopping by, man. I was just telling everybody how we had you on Indie Apocalypse with Ty. That had to be like 4 or 5 years ago. So at least, right?
I think it was the beginning of 2016.
Okay. And that's when you guys had maybe like 2-3 movies in the can, right?
We had, various no-budget short films that we made on the weekends.
And how many movies have you made since then, do you think?
I don't know. We've spent some time making some movies.
Yeah, I know. So it's quite a trip. So jumping right into it, because I did just watch your film, Everyone Dies by the End. So this can be sort of like a hybrid post indie festival Q&A, my own personal indie film festival. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. We're talking with Ian about his new movie, Everyone Dies by the End, which is, and I'll say this, as far as found footage goes, it's better than the Blair Witch, and that made $280 million. So things are looking good for you because they made like $300 million on that. And But yeah, so when did you come up with this concept? Is it something that's always been running around in your head, or was it like, let's make a movie? What do I want to make? Start the brain process now.
It definitely. Okay, so the idea for the movie came from the concept for the character and the concept of the movie, like all at once. A horror director who's going to start doing horrific things for the authentic end goal, right? And so then that kind of like tells me, all right, I want to see like that idea came in like 2012, just from like, you're a yuppie young like 17, 18-year-old filmmaker, and you're just going to like start studying all the greats, and then you start hearing about how like the fable makers are also very like like folktale mythic in themselves, and like Alfred Hitchcock telling an actress, hey, I'm gonna throw some fake birds at you, and then locking her to be hedged in with real birds. And it's like, oh yeah, no wonder it's so fucking real. Because he's literally manipulating and abusing, like Stanley Kubrick playing head games with an actress for the entirety of a production shoot, to the point where they're having mental breakdowns.
Right. And, yeah, no, that's like ultra cinema verite.
Yeah, and then I started watching stuff like in 2016, or maybe even earlier. I saw movies like What We Do in the Shadows. Have you seen the Creep movies?
Yes.
Those movies are so good, and they're just like film friends hanging out, going and making movies in the woods with usually like 1 or 2, 3 people. And they're just driven by like the intimacy of engaging as a documentarian with the subject. So it's kind of like it's a twofer. The documentarian is the protagonist, and then the main character is the subject of the film. And I really loved those kind of motifs. So that those kind of films told me like, okay, I want to see this story through the lens of like a disc 2 making of featurette. You know what I mean?
Did you watch any found footage movies, sort of like to figure out what you wanted to do or what you didn't want to do, or had you already seen enough that you had that by?
Well, I love found footage, and I think the first found footage movie I actually saw where I was like consciously aware this is like made by someone like with the intent that everyone's fucking dead now, and we found this in the rubble, was Cloverfield. And then that opened up the gates to see things like Paranormal Activity came out a couple years later. I think Paranormal Activity was shot in 2006, but it didn't come out till like 2010. And then that opened the back door for like the more esoteric stuff, like Man Bites Dog. Have you seen that one?
Yes.
And Street Thief is another really good one. It's kind of hard to find, but if you can get a copy of it, Street Thief is great. It's about a documentary crew chronicling like a professional underground like safecracker. And he'll like spend months like doing sting operations on a place, like scouting it out, and then he'll like break in and like be breaking into vaults. And it's found footage. It's completely fake, but you could show it to someone being like, dude, this is real. This is like a Vice documentary.
One of the things about found footage is that, from my perspective, and then back in the day, like growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was a scenario that happened that somebody would show up to your house with your video cassette, and he'd be like, you got to watch this. And then they throw on like The Faces of Death 8 or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
or so. Right. So there's like there were movies like that got passed around from people to people, and then you get a copy, and it had been copied like 18 times or something like that. But so for me, there's obviously you have to suspend disbelief to be able to really enjoy a found footage movie, because even when what's happening from like reel one, this movie the reason I'm seeing this is the theory behind this is that everybody's dead, right? So
yeah, and that it's like it's not been edited. You're just seeing the actual sequence of clips play out, almost like it's been on a tape.
Right. That's funny. I had a concept for something once for because we were going to do a 48, and I was like, well, if we get anything artsy, I'd like to do a 7-minute one shot where we keep moving in closer and closer, but we actually show the camera moving and then being placed again, and then the actors resetting and stuff like that. Like I've played around with the idea of something in that style. So it was weird because even though it's found footage and it's supposed to be found footage, you still have to take care of kind of how you want it to look, right?
Absolutely.
But how is it different from another film where you're kind of actively looking, because you're almost like you're steering into the bad, you're steering into the there's the out of focus versus focus, and letting it sort of, letting the footage sort of find itself, I guess.
Like kind of controlled chaos.
Right. But do you think, I guess the question is, do you think that you put more work technically into something like this to make it look found footage, or something that you're purposely trying to stylize?
Okay, so with Everybody Dies by the End, which is shot found footage mockumentary style, the next movie we did was shot narratively, and it's like a 4:3 black and white, shot to be like an old TV movie, and it's like very musty, dusty, rusty, foggy, hazy. You could probably smell the mold in the house, and they were equally as challenging and specific to make. But the differences are that Everybody Dies by the End, each scene is essentially a oneer. So you have to really block out like the conscious camera, because the camera is being operated by someone who's interested in watching, right? So you have to play it out like theater, and really play through the minutia of where everyone's going to be at which point, where the camera is going to go. And then from there, after the first few takes of like learning how to dance through it, you can essentially play it however you want, as long as you're given some good stuff, right?
Right.
And the scene where it's just a fucking super close up on the dude's face, Alfred in his bed, just lit by red, and he's just complaining about his life. That scene was heavily scripted, and it's a 5-minute oneer, but the way we ended up delivering it in the final take was not the chronology of the script, but as long as we knew the beats and where the emotional trajectory was, we just went with it, and that was usually where the most authentic moments were found.
Yeah, and there's also has to be like some restraint, because you don't want it to be like The Office, like zoom in and like make a weird face, you know what I mean? Like it's got to have, yeah,
no, because like people on film sets, like not everyone wants to be filmed. Some people are going to be uncomfortable with the fact that there's this spectator watching them while they're doing their thing.
Did you so I mean, one of the plot points is without giving too much away, is that you play part of a 2-person documentary crew that's chronicling the final film of this famous kind of B movie horror auteur sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's about his final project, but we only see it from your point of view. So, but you didn't actually shoot the other side, right? You didn't shoot what he was actually doing?
We did not.
Okay, yeah, just making sure. I would have been like an extra DVD commentary, like here's the actual final film, or
that
the
would be
scenes
good
that
for
we did.
like the spin-off. You'll see like the 16mm footage.
Yeah, that's been well. The guys who made Cannibal Corpse got dragged into court. In Japan, the guys that were making something of the flower, these mock snuff films, got dragged in because sometimes they make this.
They were so realistic. They got the police called on them.
Yeah. Cannibal Corpse, the Japanese snuff films, and a couple of other times. I think even Eli Roth, they wanted him to come in for something. Or
Cannibal Holocaust, they killed animals in the footage of the movie. They actually executed animals.
Yes, but they also thought that they had impaled a woman with like a pole too. So they were like,
that was their fucked up thinking of like, we'll kill an animal for real, and then we'll show a fake chick like impaled, and then you'll just be in this like gut set of like, I'm watching a snuff.
Yeah. No, so this is even knowing where it's going, because you have these preconceived, like you said, these preconceived notions of what a found footage movie is and sort of mockumentary is. Even going into it, the way you got there, I thought was very well done and good, well paced, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I really I identified it with the director a couple of times. Well, he's like, I'm a director, not an acting coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who played the Al was really, really good, very well cast.
Vinnie Curran, he's a legend. I hope he gets his dues.
And then you recently got accepted into a UK festival, right?
Yeah, Fright Fest UK, Arrow Video.
Anybody taking a trip?
Yeah, me, my co-director Ryan Schaefer, one of our best buds, and he plays Grant in the film, Brendan Cahalan, and of course you got to bring Vinnie Curran. You got to bring Alfred Costello.
All right, is this going to be like this is going to be your first festival abroad, right?
Yeah, it's going to be aside from short films and going to like places we couldn't travel to, and or just playing locally at San Diego and hanging out with people that we've already known. This is our first big kid film festival.
Nice one, man. Congratulations. It's well deserved. Like I said, the I know Ty helped you with some of those posters, right?
Yeah, he made the fake posters that Al has for his movies, and he did the CGI in the movie, and yeah,
Psycho Menace. Nice. He did the CGI in the movie.
yeah.
Battery acid.
Like there's a lot of practical effects, but there's also lots of like impossible movements that would actually kill people, right? So
Right.
lots of hidden cuts and compositing and fake lights that fall on people's heads.
All right, we're live with Ian Tripp. He's talking about his new film, Everyone Dies by the End. You can follow the film on Instagram, Everybody Dies by the End movie, and you can see here that it's getting accepted to a bunch of I'm predicting it. I'm saying it's going to get into a bunch of festivals, especially any niche horror festivals like that. It is definitely a very cool found footage movie, and I've known Ian for several years. Have been following his work for a while, so I'm happy to see you, and I'm happy to see that you're taking that next step, man.
Thanks, dude. That really means a lot.
And as a preview, I'm also in an upcoming Ian Tripp film where you can see back here. I got my luchador picture there that he was so kind enough to let me keep after my day on set. And actually, interesting story. You told me about like a year ago, and I ordered this. I ordered this custom hat that had it's got the Taurus symbol, but he's got like the luchador mask on as well.
Yeah.
I ordered this hat like a year ago because I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna order," because usually these hats they're like custom, but they come like 2 months later. But then the whole shipping thing happened, and I barely got this hat like 2 weeks ago. I was supposed to have this hopefully by the time we shot because I wanted to have. I was gonna like just have it like with me. But yeah, can you give us a little sneak on Sincerely Saul and how that's coming along?
Yeah, so Sincerely Saul is our second feature film. I wrote and directed it. Ryan Schaefer, who's my co-director on Everybody Dies, and he plays Howard the Blood Guy. He plays the titular character of Saul in Sincerely Saul. And so it's kind of like the antithesis to Everybody Dies by the End, but it's like still the same kind of like authorship where it's like ensemble, dark comedy, situational comedy. And yeah, there's Ryan and I on the set of Everybody Dies. And Saul is about essentially it's a housebound movie about a 26-year-old man-child who's more mentally like a 13-year-old, and he lives at home with his bedridden grandma, and he's threatening to kill himself on his impending 27th birthday if he doesn't lose his virginity by then. And he's going to support groups for adult male virgins. He's going to conventions for his favorite TV show character, Lucho Maximo Supreme, and might get into some fights at the convention line. And yeah, it's essentially like this misguided quest to search for like an Orthodox family, essentially, because he lives with a grandma who's not even his biological grandma. She married his dying grandpa, and now she owns the house. I don't want to give too much away, but it's like if Napoleon Dynamite started hanging out with Gummo, and Gummo introduced Napoleon to Eraserhead.
Okay, yeah, let's digest all that. It's a lot to take in. I wanted to touch base on a couple of things filmmaking wise that you talked about. The first thing I wanted to talk about is because like you said, you're a young kid, you get into film, you start watching, the classics, the masters, the thing that you're supposed to think. I'm of the minds and there's this new thing happening on Twitter where there's all these really young, like 20 something like early 20s sort of kids that are out there, and they're sort of getting out there as like Twitter film critics. Mm-hmm. And they're rewatching these movies right from like the 90s, 2000s and stuff like that. And part of me loves it, but then once in a while they'll just say something and it's like it's so cringe because it's just like, dude, it's not, you know what I mean? You're gonna tell me how
structuring of 2001 was completely off. Why the fact that there's a fucking orchestral break midway through the movie, I didn't.
Yeah, not only that, but just kind of putting films in the context of a fan of today, right? Without really all the context of the time. So, but and then they're like they get around to the classics. Do you feel that there is a mandatory list of films that any aspiring filmmaker should watch, or do you feel that it just kind of depends on just what attracts you? Like if I have, for example, I had they talked about, there was a thread the other day and they're like, what's your embarrassing film take, movie that you never watched or that you didn't like that's a classic, and I was like, I've never been able to get through Citizen Kane.
Oh, really?
It for some reason the transitions and it drags for me in times, and I've seen it, but it's just not something that I just feel like I want to sit down and watch it, right?
Yeah,
so
it's kind of like homework a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So do you feel that there is a set, like you definitely have to watch this? You definitely have to, do you feel like this, or is it just kind of like?
I think I personally like watching stuff through word of mouth. Like if someone, like I grew up with like, my dad would be like, all right, dude, there's this movie called Clash of the Titans. This is like this dude that has to fight Medusa and she's claymation. He chops her head off and the blood turns these scorpions into the size of a car. And then we drive to Blockbuster and I watch that movie. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh shit, there's this movie called Clash of the Titans. So there's like a romanticism to that. But I do think there's like a due diligence in watching certain classics, just so that like from like the scientific method, you can understand where we came from in order to like understand how to move forward,
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely not like having a group of people over to watch Citizen Kane. That's for sure.
Right. Or, like, yeah, I get it. I watched Nosferatu in film school, but it's not like,
yeah, there's a lot of shots that linger on shadows.
Yeah, I'm not popping it in the background while I'm like, cleaning my room, I'd rather put on like 7
old popcorn flicks, fucking bump. Like the Universal monster movies, they're all easily watchable. Even stuff like The Mummy, where most of it is just like a talking head drama, like a Victorian drama. Like that movie is even really good. Yeah, Frankenstein is really wicked. Hitchcock's Psycho. It was shot to be a low budget TV movie, and that ended up being like one of his best movies.
Did you watch the remake?
I did not. Is it worth watching?
You know what? I don't know, because you don't expect that from Baz Luhrmann for him to do a shot-by-shot remake of Psycho.
Baz Luhrmann did a shot-by-shot remake of Psycho?
I believe the remake of Shock. I'm not. You know what? I smoked a lot of weed back then, but I am pretty sure
this movie might have been invented in your head. This is what you wanted to make. You're like, what if we got Baz Luhrmann to remake Psycho?
I can't freaking type.
I started watching the Psycho sequels though, the ones with Anthony Perkins.
Okay, and what did you feel about that?
They're not bad. They're like actually really watchable. The second one is about him coming back to town after he's been like rehabilitated, and it's been like as long of a gap since the movies came out, and he's like 20 years older, and he's like trying to work a job, and everyone's tormenting him, and this chick is like trying to take him in and console him, but really she's like tormenting him because she has like some like connection to him.
Mm-hmm.
Good shit.
I got my Baz Luhrmann mixed up with my Gus Van Sant. So
Baz Luhrmann does like the music biopics, right?
Yeah, he did Elvis. Elvis and Romeo and Juliet with
that movie's good
with Claire Danes. He did it was a shot by shot remake with Anne Heche actually, and
R.I.P.
and Vince Vaughn. I went to see it, and just because I was like, it seems like interesting to just make a by the book recreation of something seemed kind of interesting to me.
That
but
sounds like a film teacher would do. A film teacher would be like, I shot Psycho.
It felt like a film school exercise. That is exactly what it felt.
As Norman Bates, that's actually interesting casting though. I like that.
Yeah, and then the other, well, if we're talking briefly about movies that should never be remade, Spike Lee did a remake of Old Boy for some reason, and we shall. we don't talk. It's not like we don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about the Old Boy remake that never should have. I mean, I love Spike Lee more than anything.
You know what's messed up? During the press for Old Boy, someone asked him, "Which one of your movies would you like to see get remade?" And he said, "None of them. You can't touch them."
I mean, he could have done Do the Right Thing too, or even something else there, man. I'm just saying that was just a waste. that. What movie would you never want to see remade? It's got to be somewhat popular that it might be remade.
I don't want to say it because then it would be like broad.
Oh, you don't want to put it. You don't want to put it on the universe. I feel you.
Oh, I will say, a few years back, the movie rights to Donnie Darko were bought up by I forget who, but they were going to streamline a remake, and then it took too long. Richard Kelly got the rights back, and he sold it to Arrow Video, so we're safe.
Nice. Did you have any? What was your biggest jumping point in terms of like technological or technique or controlling the set from jumping from shorts to your first feature?
Okay, so I think one of the first shorts I made was like an actual attempt at being like, I'm trying to make a movie, not just like sketch comedy videos that were like fuck offs in high school or something. It was 2013. I was 18 years old, and I had like stress dreams about like audio syncing and like audio quality and different audio tracks, and just like the most minimalist worries. And
Pluralize wasn't a thing back then.
I was just a rookie, but people were like, oh, you made a short, so let's make a feature now, just to kind of make one. And I just didn't really want to do that because I enjoyed making the movies, and I realized how hard it was to actually like produce like a from beginning to middle and end like 10-minute movie. But it was like good film school to just learn by making, the Stanley Kubrick film school of just make shit. And I didn't want to make a feature until we made enough stuff that we felt ready. And each short film was a different attempt at like sculpting our skills in a specific way. So after we made a short film with like a 3-act structure, we kind of took it back to basics and started making more minimalist stuff like silent films and like 3-minute videos, music videos. And then we started trying to get back into more intricate stuff, and it was a little bit higher quality and focused on things like, all right, this short film is more music video-esque and like about editing and shot angles, and there's going to be no like we're going to shoot at MOS because sound is difficult. Right. And it kind of just came to a point where we started like I have lots of friends who've gone to film school and made wicked stuff, and I didn't really want to do that, but I did appreciate like the sentiment of making thesis films. And students usually make like 2 thesis films that are like, they fund them, but you get to make like 20-minute movies, a couple 20-minute movies throughout the course of film school. And I wanted us to make our own thesis films. So we just started producing 20-minute movies, basically, that were kind of like episodes of TV shows that don't exist. And I love things like the dudes from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The original pilot was just a home movie they made, and people liked it. Right. And so we just, enjoyed sitting at the level we were at because we didn't want to look like little kids in their dad's suit where the sleeves are like going past our arms, because that kind of etches away at the production value. If you can shoot around your limitations without showing your limitations, I think people are okay with small scale stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And you didn't want to look like you were 3 kids in a trench coat stacked up one
exactly like an Eric Andre bit.
Yeah, Bojack.
Or Bojack.
Yeah, was it Vince Adultman? Vincent Adultman. No, I feel you. I think that when you start making shorts, obviously that's a logical question because I think that unfortunately in the indie scene, and this is more of a commentary of local filmmakers, I guess, is sometimes you find people that get stuck in a rut of like they only do like the 48 or competitions, and then the rest of the year they're just talking about movies until they can sort of do that. And I really see that you guys out there like putting stuff out there, like oh here's another 3-minute short, here's a music video, here's like a 7-minute like black and white dreamy sort of sequence. And I was just like, okay. I also really like the way you put your team to use. Because I feel like you put spotlights on other people, and you're not afraid to steer into kind of less than standard leading actors and stuff like that. Like I feel like you're putting, this is my team. These are the people that I fuck with and that I'm making movies with, and I'm gonna kind of put something together so that each of them can have a moment to shine, if that makes sense. Totally. So I think that's totally like That's a really cool thing to do as a filmmaker, to sort of showcase the people that help you, because as a director, you're at the top of the pyramid, and it's weird. It's weird because it's hard for me and you to collaborate, because we're both at the top of our individual food chains, kind of, so we're both doing like our own little like world, and then the actors get to like run back and forth and play with other teams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like me and you are like, we're so it is kind of, you do have to have a bit of an ego, but film is a collaborative art. So to be able to highlight and push up those people around you that help make you, that's a cool thing, and it sort of keeps you humble, right, in a way.
Yeah, and thank you for seeing and appreciating that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think, like I said, seeing other filmmakers come up and sort of kind of dealing with the shit that you dealt with as a filmmaker, but doing better choices or better stuff, is encouraging. One of the reasons that I love doing this, and I love and that I've been part of like the San Diego Latino Film Festival for the last couple of years, and being a curator, is getting to see films and even in a corny way, like I saw probably 30 films about the pandemic, because everybody made a film about the pandemic and submitted it this year. There was probably about 10 different films about dating during the pandemic. And I was watching all the comedies for my comedy showcases, so I got to watch all of them, and even seeing like 10, 15 different filmmakers tackle the same subject but doing it a different way, and seeing the one or two that really shined, that was like, okay, cool. Because a lot of times you watch a movie and I'm like, all right, I get it, I know where it's coming, I know where it's going, but when somebody surprises you, like okay, you sit me down to watch a movie called Everyone Dies by the End, and I'm like,
Wonder where it's
right,
gonna go.
I wonder where this is going. But then you still take me to a place that gets there. So yeah, so those are your flowers, buddy. Enjoy them.
Thanks, dude. I'm gonna hang them up on the wall upside down.
Put a little aspirin in the vase so that they last longer. So you jump from shorts, you feel like you're ready, you knock out two features, and your first one gets into a film festival. Do you feel that as a filmmaker, once you jump to features, once you jump to that you should stay there, or do you think that if you have an idea for a cool short, you'd still sort of pop that into the queue and knock that out?
Oh yeah, I helped produce 2 short films after we made Everybody Dies, and I just wanted to stay busy. Directed by Zarin Gutierrez. I think he PA'd for you a couple times.
Yes, he did.
He got some cool short films out this year called Clown Time, which is a silent short film, kind of about like shenanigans and abuse. I don't want to like speak for it too much. You should just watch it, because it's literally cut to be like a 1920s movie. Like when a character jumps into a long shot and they just kind of like jump cut in. There's lots of cool stuff like that. We all make out with a mannequin head. It's a brilliant piece of art. And then the other one is called Ego Death, which is like residents of a gothic Southern California hotel and the shenanigans in that. And then I directed a really lo-fi short film that's like way too long to be called a short film, but by IMDb standards, it's still a short film. It's a 50-minute movie called Ricky's Gonna Win One, starring Brendan Cahalan, about a dude who is he's doing nofap to try to attract more women, and it's kind of this like character study, as like half the movie is his vlogs that he puts onto YouTube. And yeah, I just like making movies. We also made a little web series called Terrible Times, which is just, I put a fisheye lens on the camera, and which really stabilizes the shots. I can run and gun it and get really close up to the actors, and I put a shotgun mic on the camera, and we just go and make something as lo-fi as possible, just to like have fun and play pretend.
Yeah, right. Sounds like you're in permanent film school. Yeah. You're like,
yeah, no, totally.
Film school, but make it my whole life.
Yeah, until I'm dead.
Yeah. That's what I say. We're all hurling to space on this giant rock, stuck to it by magic, and we don't know when it's gonna end. So we should spend time with the people that we love and make some art while we're here, right?
And praise centrifugal forces.
Yes, the magic potion that keeps us stuck to this rock. So we're talking live with Ian Tripp from Children of Celluloid, as well as the new movie Everyone Dies by the End. If you're in London, you can go watch it. UK Fright Fest coming up, and I am going to assume that it will be getting into some other festivals moving forward.
Yeah, I think
I did.
we announced Ireland in October, and we're having our Spanish premiere in November.
Nice, dude. That's you're getting some legit laurels on the poster. Speaking of like the indie festival scene, how careful are you when you're figuring out where to submit festivals? Because it used to be you could pretty much tell a reputable from a non-reputable festival. Then a lot of festivals over the last couple of years moved to virtual. A virtual only festival used to be a sign that it wasn't too legit. Then a lot of them moved to it. There's obviously the big festivals that you sort of submit to just because you want to feel like you submitted to it, and even though you know you pretty much don't have much of a shot. But how do you approach that? Do you research them for? Do you look for niche? What's your process for that?
Yeah, so for Everybody Dies by the End, I basically hit up all my friends who have directed horror features and kind of asked them like what are the best places to submit to, and like where would I have some good shots. And I had a wish list too. I used Film Freeway, and you can just you can favorite festivals, and they'll alert you when they open up. And
Absolutely.
it was just I guess it was right place, right time that they start opening up throughout the summer basically, and for fall festivals. I guess I'm a rookie at all of this, but we essentially did what you said. We just blind submitted to everything.
Boom. starting to get the accolades.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Was it did you sort of stick to mostly horror themed festivals like Horrible Imaginings? I'm assuming that you submitted to. That's a local festival here, San Diego. You should definitely submit to that.
Okay.
It's what?
I don't think I submitted to that.
No, definitely. Yeah, submit it. I'll let Miguel know to look out for it too, because he's a really cool curator. A lot of talk a little bit about indie filmmaking here. A lot of I also really like what your crew does, because you're focusing on the weird, you're focusing on the non-traditional, you're focusing on like the funky sort of like a side of filmmaking. I do find that a lot of times filmmakers will take themselves too serious, or try to take other filmmakers short films too seriously. Like there's this, like a trope of making fun of indie filmmakers, because it's like, oh no, let me guess, your movie starts with somebody waking up in the morning, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a trope for indie filmmakers, but it's also an 80s trope and just a general film trope. And if you really think about it, independent filmmakers often don't have a lot of money. They film to, like you said, they film to try to hide what they don't have, and what they don't have is location, so they have control of their house. So a lot of the times the movie starts at the house.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Like the two schools for school sort of theory on filmmaking. And how do you feel about how indie and independent and filmmakers starting out get treated?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. With my experience, I was just that annoying kid who was like the squeaky wheel, you know what I mean? So I would just be like bold and brave and just hit people up and be like, hey, I respect you, I like your movies, and I just want to know you. And when I make movies, I would like you to watch them. And sometimes you shoot your shot and they're not interested, and sometimes you make a lifelong friend out of it. And so I think it's good to be aware that people are still learning, and like you said, we're working with the resources we have, and I'd rather make something than we're movie makers, not wait arounders. So it's good to be slightly forgiving, I think. Especially once you start making movies and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah, it's a lot of a difference. It's harder than it looks.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that people shit on indie films a lot, and they're like, hey, I like to approach it more like if somebody comes to me and they say, hey, this is a script that I have, can you read it? Or this is a short that I made, would you watch it? I'm just like, am I watching this as a colleague? Am I watching this as a filmmaker? Or am I watching this as your friend to support you? Because I support anybody making art, and I don't want to give you unsolicited advice. But if you want me to be critical about it,
Yeah.
this is something that I learned from Ty, actually, because he's like, well, do you want me to give you notes or do you want me to just kiss your ass? Like, no, I want you to tell me what you actually think.
Yeah.
So I would give them honest advice, but always make sure that I praise the fact that they made the film. That making something is the thing.
Yeah.
There's no better film school than making the movie.
D for Darius?
I don't. It doesn't sound familiar.
He's a cool guy. He's a YouTube filmmaker, and he made a really good video where like the thesis of the video was basically like all movies are hard to make, even the bad ones, and we wonder which ones ours will be.
Yeah, you don't really know until you put it in front of an audience, right?
And you feel the room live.
Yeah. There's two greatest things that my two biggest turn-ons to filmmaking is day one, shot one, and being in the back of a theater, lights off, and having a group of people that don't know shit about your movie watch it. Those are the two things that I love the most about filmmaking. So if you're out there and you want to make your movie, just make the movie. I always say the most indie filmmaking is problem solving. The director is usually the producer, and basically it's about what happened that you have to overcome that day, and salvaging the day. Your sound guy didn't show up, but you got a Rode mic, like you said, throw a shotgun on that bitch and get the close-ups first so that you got some good sound. And then hopefully when you're doing the wide shot, they remember their cadence. If your fucking camera got smashed or stolen, but you got great sound, everybody bust out your 4K phones and, let's get really great sound and some good iPhone video, and let's salvage the day. One of your actresses had a fake car accident on the way to set. Okay, she only had 4 lines. Let's give those to this other person and salvage the day.
Yeah.
You needed an extra.
You have agility. You have to be like Spider-Man. You got to like be able to see what's going to come before it comes and be able to dodge out of the way. Like, all right, we're going down a different path now because
we're going. Yeah, this is. You gotta adapt. So being an indie filmmaker, so they're like, oh, you're starting your movie with somebody waking up in the morning, which I did on one of my rom-coms, but I did it as sort of like I try to spin it. I try to kind of do like a takeoff on it. I always tell filmmakers, well, yeah, you can start your movie like that. It's your movie. You do it whatever the fuck you want. It's your artwork. The same thing I tell people about casting. There's this whole conversation about who you can cast to play a marginalized role. And at the end of the day, it's your movie. You're going to do whatever the hell you want because it's your art. But in order to feel like you're doing a good job as a human, I say, look to those communities first. Really do your research. Go through the steps first. And if you still think actor A versus actor B is the best go, then you go with it because it's your film. If you really want to start your movie with somebody waking in the morning, you do that. But what if you put your character in a different situation? What if he's waking up on a city bus and he doesn't remember where he's been? Or, what if you put him in this situation? What if you put them, think about it and think about everything that's available to you and just think about the choices that you're making and then make the choice.
And like study the cliches by just watching lots of stuff. And then you'll just intuitively understand like, okay, I'm doing something cliche. We could still do that, but you can subvert it and make it unique. Like you're saying, like What We Do in the Shadows opens with an alarm clock, but it says 6 p.m. and then it cuts to a coffin opening.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Your guy wakes up in his bed, he turns off the alarm clock, and then he realizes there's slime in his hand, and he looks in his bed, and it's just covered in green goo. Start your movie.
Start your movie. Well, in Slapworthy, the clock goes off at 6:19 in the morning, and he goes up to his computer, and he looks up a porn website, and he starts jerking off, and then he goes back to bed. And then he wakes back up at 8:30 and he's late for work. So that's kind of why I did with mine, because you got to subvert expectations.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, make the movie you want, and I'm glad that you're here because I really like talking indie film and process, and honestly, I've seen you progress over the last 5 years plus. Even your stuff when Ty first told me, he's like, hey, I know these young filmmakers, and I've seen a couple of their movies, and I think we should have it on the podcast. And I was like, yeah, shoot me the links. And then I was watching some of your stuff where you had people's heads exploding and all this other stuff, and I was like, yeah, fuck it, But yeah, this guy's made like a 7-minute movie about a guy with constipation. Yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in. Bring them on. Let's definitely have them on the show.
That's awesome.
Daniel Butler said, never remake Jaws. Yeah, I agree. That would be a tough one to I saw when they were talking about the vampire movie. What's it called? The cool guy, I guess, whatever. The Lost Boys. When they were talking, I think they still might be remaking the Lost Boys. That's the one that I'm like, oh, please don't do it.
I can see it happening.
I can see it happening. All right, we're live with Ian Tripp, talking about his film. We're going to talk about Children of Celluloid and where that originated from a minute. But you will be able to catch Everyone Dies by the End in UK on August 29th. And after you watch it, you can come back and watch this video and see what the Q&A would have been afterwards if you would have been there. Or you can go to Europe or Ireland or Spain, or wait for it as it eventually will come to several festivals in the US, I would venture. And you can also follow Ian and the movie by following for Everyone Dies by the End movie on Instagram. Quick promo.
Hey, I'm John Allen. Hey, Rick. You seen that show that's on social media? There's a lot of shows on social media, Morty. You're gonna have to narrow it down. 2 a.m. burrito. Oh yeah. I do like a burrito at 2 a.m. Morty. The show. You should watch it.
Uh-oh. We've done a movie test here. I thought we were doing a locked camera reveal where you were going to
Just gonna zoom out.
zoom out. What's your favorite camera move?
What's my favorite camera move?
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite shot? What's your favorite type of shot?
Oh my god. I like Dutch angles. Because
I was gonna say Dutch angles as a joke, but then I was like,
no, I actually do. I love like our movie Sincerely Saul. We did a lot of Dutch angles to fuck with like the line work in the frames, just to kind of give it that like German expressionist look. Yeah. And I even like stuff like Batman and Robin, where like half that movie's in a Dutch angle.
Yeah. When we did In the Apocalypse, I used to do a bit on the show with Ty, and it was a guy called Freddie the Fascist Filmmaker, and he was like, all the angles will be Dutch. So I remember that. I
also like the Zolly shot where you're either like pulling back and zooming in or zooming out and pushing forward. I love those.
Okay. Tarantino or Paul Thomas Anderson?
More of Tarantino's movies are favorites of mine, so I'm gonna say Paul Thomas Anderson is like I love The Master, but it's Tarantino.
Yeah, I think they had a similar sort of, their first few films felt similar to me, they
were both of their first films, Reservoir Dogs and Hard Eight.
Hard Eight, yeah.
Hard Eight was a poker movie.
Hard Eight was kind of like the Vegas kind of, it was more like a gambling movie than a poker movie. Sometimes I get my Hard Eight with the cooler.
Every 90s directorial debut was like mostly set in a diner at some point.
Yeah. Well, that one starts at a diner. He's got that great tracking shot. The Master has one of my favorite shots in all of movie, which is the rack focus when Joaquin first sees the boat with Philip Seymour Hoffman dancing on it, and they come back and forth between focusing on Joaquin as he's walking towards the boat and then focusing like back sunset, on the boat.
It's like Blue Hour.
No, yeah, I think it's like late. It's late, but it's just that it's like at the beginning of the movie, it's like right after he runs away from all the people because he killed somebody with moonshine, and then it's like where he first walks and jumps onto the boat, and it's just the whole tracking shot the whole way, and then the boat's on his left side, and he just keeps rack focusing back and forth, and you see Philip Seymour Hoffman like really clearly dancing on top of the boat. I love that fucking shot. And then I think Paul Thomas Anderson, another bad movie take that I have is I hate Magnolia. I can't stand Magnolia for some reason. It's another one where it's like I can't really get through it. It's just too much.
I haven't seen it, to be fair, but I've only heard good things about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was kind of like too much too soon for him. Like he had all the power in the world, Boogie Nights, Hard Eight, and all of a sudden he's like, everybody in the world wants to be in your movie. Tom Cruise will be in it, and he's like, yeah, let's do it, and then he just does too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a tough one. Do you think that you would be comfortable doing like a TV show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does it have to be weird, or would you be able to do like an episode of General Hospital, just from go in there, clock in, clock out?
I mean, like it's the city of yes, but I also would like want to be interested in what I'm working on. Ideally, even if it's like a show I haven't heard of, right. It would be cool to be intrigued by the material.
Okay, all right. And what is a movie that you will rewatch over and over recently instead of watching something new?
Can I scroll through my Letterboxd?
Sure, go ahead. I'll give you mine while you're watching. I've watched Moneyball more times than I can count in the last couple of years because I kind of think Sorkin's a bit of a hack at times, and I don't like all his stuff, but this one is really one where I really, really think it plays well. And I'm a big baseball fan, so I think it's also a really cool movie.
Okay, I got mine. It's the Beta Test. I've watched that a lot. It came out last year. It's Jim Cummings' third film.
Right.
And yeah, it was made for, I think, less than $300,000. And it looks like it cost like $3 million. Really well made movie. I really like let's see. I'll just like rewatch like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
The Elijah Wood movie, Come to Daddy. That movie, it's both freaky and like surprisingly violent and like oddly touching. It's about a dude whose estranged father sends him an ambiguous letter saying, I live out in the woods, come meet me. And Elijah Wood plays like this DJ from LA. And he's got a bowl cut and like a Prada jacket and a gold iPhone. And he shows up to this like man's man of a dad who's like, if you want to impress me, you got to tell me a good fight story. And I don't want to say any more other than it's about this man and his relationship with his daddy.
Okay. All right. If you could watch only one country's films for the rest of your life, and it can't be the US, what film country would you get?
Probably Korea. I just like their sensibilities because they make very like genre fluid films where they can be outlandish and like absurdist and like neo fairy tales, but they can be as equally like gut punching in the subject matter. Like you can play it straight and have fun with it. And there's something about Korean films where they're just like really hungry for vengeance in their stories.
Did you I'm assuming you like Parasite. Did you watch The Host?
The Bong Joon-ho film? Yeah.
That's a really cool film and like good stuff in that. Good. Yeah, that's not a bad country. I would probably say Japan maybe or Korea. Those are good choices. Do you remember the first movie you saw in the theater?
And I know what the first movie was. I don't really remember it, but I do remember seeing Phantom Menace in the theaters in 1990.
Wow.
And I think I talked through it because I didn't get it. I'm like, what is happening? but I remember it being really cool.
Had you been exposed to the other Star Wars films before then, or?
I had. Yeah,
okay.
Like the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And the movie I saw in theaters for the very first time was, I think, an animated kids movie called Quest for Camelot.
Okay. Okay, I'll age myself, but I vividly remember the first time I was in a movie theater was to watch E.T.
Dope.
So that's how old I am.
That one's
E.T.
hard on kids too, because it's like, here's your puppy, now we're gonna take it away.
For a while, and I've sort of, it's failed me in my later years, but I could pretty much remember any movie that I saw in a theater and who I was with. Like, because I would I think but that for me it's because when my parents divorced, when I would go back and forth between them, one of the first things that I would do with my mom or my dad when I got to spend time with them was go to a movie. So I always remembered, like, for example, my dad coming to visit me in Colombia, and we went to go see Tango and Cash. So I remember, Sylvester Stallone movie, and I remember coming to visit my mom, and then going to see What Dreams May Come, like with Robin Williams and stuff like that. So for a while, and that's what I always.
Our taste at first is like what our parents watch, so we're indoctrinated into like the legacy of what they enjoy. Can I grab a cup of coffee real quick? It's
Please, absolutely. I'll do a couple of intros here and pay some bills. Guys, thank you for everybody that's tuned in so far. We're having a conversation here with Mr. Ian Tripp from Children of Celluloid. Make sure that you guys are following us across all platforms. I'll throw out the socials for you. Here they are. And since we are talking film, this is going to be an official also episode of Ed Wood Film School. I also, as we were talking about movie theater movies, I also had to watch Titanic 3 times in the movie theater because I was dating 2 separate girls at the same time, and they both wanted to watch it, and I also had to go watch it with my mom. So I sat through probably 11 hours worth of Titanic in movie theaters, and that's probably like the most work I've had to put in movie wise. That was oh, but I want to see it in the theater. Oh, it just doesn't seem like. I've already seen it. I've already seen it twice. I can't go a third time, but it was worth it in the end. It was worth
the movie that brought me back to the theater immediately was The Dark Knight. I saw it and I was like, I have to go see that again, and I did.
Do you how do you feel about like the switch to these big movie theater movies coming out on HBO Max and other stuff and no theater run? How do you feel about that?
It's kind of like weather, it comes and goes a little bit. Like during the lockdown, and they were like panicking about what to do with movies, so they're like, all right, for this next quarter, we're going to release all of our Warner Brothers movies straight to HBO. But they've stopped doing that. When you talked about back row cancellation, like they're canning the idea with management of doing like mid-grade straight to video stuff right now. So they're going back to trying to revamp their DC cinematic universe. And but I mean, cool stuff that's like that mid-range is going to keep coming out to streaming, which is the cool side of streaming.
Yeah, I mean, if it allows some more indie stuff to sort of get out there, and some like $2 to $3 to $5 million movies to get an avenue, I'm with it. But
that or like a mid-range company like BH Tilt, something like that, or like Neon or A24.
If you could get signed on to any okay, so your agent comes to you, Ian, and says, I got 2 projects for you, right?
All right,
you got to pick one. All right. Amazon, or wait, no. Disney Plus is doing a Marvel spin-off.
Yeah.
It's like 8 episodes.
Squirrel Girl.
Squid Girl. Let's do it.
Squirrel Girl, not Squid Girl.
Either one. The other one sounds Japanese. Or they're doing Fast and Furious 11. So you going for that 8 episode Disney money, or are you going for that tentpole money?
I think I like action, and I think our stuff has stunts in them, but they're not oriented around the pacing as being driven by action. And
Okay.
I think the cool side of stuff like Marvel, which is not a disrespect to Fast and the Furious at all, those movies are like modern, like Shakespearean Bollywood films in a way, but they're like operatic and explosive, and cars are flying through airplanes now, and they're like in the stratosphere in
They're
cars.
superhero movies without being superhero movies.
Yeah, totally. And it's based on an original IP. They saw Point Break and they're like, let's just do that again. And but they did it with like most entirely people of color cast, and they hit something in the culture that has lived for what is it, like 20 years now, 20 plus years.
They're all over it.
You know,
they turn a car franchise into like a superhero enhanced reality.
Yeah,
and people love it.
But it was always kind of like a crime espionage thriller too, and like mob stuff. Like in the first one, isn't Dom like pouring a gasoline tank down someone's throat at one point?
They're doing all kinds. They're doing water torture.
Yeah, something like that. But I think I would probably pick a Marvel show just because I like the fantasy storytelling and the oddballness of like what you can get away with. Like you could have a raccoon and a tree man and like a jetpack man all be best friends. And I love creatures that are characters, you know.
You're having a dinner party, right? This is where I throw out this. You're having a dinner party, right? And you can invite 5 filmmakers that are alive.
Okay. 5?
I'm gonna be generous. And I'm already there, so you don't have to use one on me. I'm already there rolling blunts in the background, so you don't have to worry about me.
Yeah, you're gonna moderate too.
Yeah, I'm moderating.
I want David Lynch because he's just really insightful and like gently spoken, and I don't feel like he would steamroll me. Like he would let me talk too, probably, and probably mutually appreciate things about each other just because he's a nice guy and wants to hear. But I want to hear about transcendental meditation and how that has made him enjoy smoking cigarettes more. And okay, filmmakers that are still alive. Okay,
no, dead or alive. You can go dead or alive.
I can go. Okay.
Yeah, 5 dead or alive.
Oh, okay. I think even Stanley Kubrick would probably be like pretty quiet, but like when he opened up by the end of the night, he would probably say some really wacky shit. And then let's see, Kevin Smith, because like I just that man can talk. He talks good, And whenever I feel like I'm an introvert, so it's good to have people around that are like the life of the party. You know what I mean? To me, like if my energy ever drains socially, Kevin Smith's still there to talk about himself. And then let's see.
Why everybody misunderstood Tusk.
Oh, dude, Tusk is cool. Tusk is cool.
Tusk.
I'm glad that movie got made.
Right, so we got Kubrick, Lynch, Smith.
Yeah. Looking at my film collection real quick.
Go ahead. This one, does this make you think of anybody?
Yeah, I think John Carpenter's pretty cool too. Yeah. Fuck it. Yeah, John Carpenter. And his career is actually a career I really admire in that he just made like original IP after original IP for the longest time. He was just like, I'm going to just keep making cool genre films that are micro budgets and start genres.
Okay, so we got Carpenter.
Yep.
And who else?
I don't want to just like throw a name out. I want to.
Okay, no, please. To be fair, I'll give you my list after.
Okay.
Got Kubrick, Kevin Smith. We got comedy. We got horror. Carpenter.
George Lucas, because he's like the pioneer of like being like a modern filmmaker and business person, and he'd probably have some like really like he'd have some wisdom. He's the real Yoda.
Okay. I like it. Okay. I'm gonna have to go with. I gotta go with my boy Spike. Just so I can ask him about Old Boy 2 and why he even thought about it. Probably Takashi Miike, just because he would probably be really weird with it. Like
which
that.
One did he direct? Did he direct
Ichi the Killer?
Okay.
Audition, I believe.
Yeah.
And then I would probably go with Scorsese and Coppola, so I could ask Coppola when he realized that his daughter was a better director than him. And then, because I've always said, what would you ask? What would you ask Francis Ford Coppola to end an interview? And I said, well, I'd ask him when he knew that his daughter was better than him, and then I would see if that would end the interview. And then probably Robert Rodriguez, probably just because. Just the fact that he made El Mariachi and he's just so fucking grounded and like, yeah. And Tarantino and Paul Thomas Anderson, they would be kind of, they would be pissed they didn't get invited. So that would make me happy as well. Everybody has them on.
They can go do blow and talk about themselves in their private careers.
Absolutely.
And I love those guys, and I mean that with 100% respect.
You know what I was thinking, because I think we're gonna do an episode where we're gonna do just have people just give us a top 5 on anything, and I think that there's movies that just like if you like when they're like, oh, your top 5 rappers, and it's just like it's just so cliche to just bring up Biggie and Eminem and Tupac, because I think that, and just with movies, it's like, okay, you're gonna give me your top 5, and Godfather 1 and Godfather 2 are taking up 2 places, or can we just establish that those are just like beyond reproach? Like, how interesting is it for me to put Godfather 1 and Godfather 2 and Heat in my top 5? Like, absolutely, Heat's one of my top 5 movies of all time. Michael Mann would probably have to be on my list now that I think about it. But I think it's a lot more interesting that I can put a movie like Edward Scissorhands or Basquiat, or just movies that I think are more uniquely films that I enjoy and that are in, kind of like them. Do you sort of feel like that way, that there's like the established best and then there's, your best?
Yeah, absolutely. There's like the mains that are just so famous and they're probably going to stay on the IMDb top 200. And then there's those movies that you just find on your own. It's like records, there's the records that get played for you on the radio and by people that, love the record. And then there's the music that you find and you show to others.
Yeah, I mean, you telling me Shawshank is your favorite movie is not really saying much. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's definitely one of the best movies of all time. You tell me Casablanca too. Yeah, I get it. I get it. That doesn't tell me much about you. What is it that makes you unique?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So again, we've been talking with Mr. Ian Tripp. Tell me a little bit about Children of Celluloid and kind of the term as it gets thrown around in the movie, and then you have your production company that's been birthed with that name. What does that mean to you?
Okay, so we wrote this movie, Everybody Dies by the End, and then they're a film collective making a movie, and they're also kind of cultish, and I wanted them to have a collective name, and celluloid is the actual material that film is made of to capture images through light and the chemical process. And even though we shoot movies digitally, but it's just kind of like a romanticism to the fact that we are children of film, in that you can't help in this generation grow up loving film before making film. And I was there's a Smith song where he says something like I want to go down in celluloid history, and that was the first time I heard the word celluloid, and I liked it. And then in the movie Mandy, there's a cult called Children of the New Dawn, and it's just very cool and bold. And then I like alliterations, so Children of Celluloid became fuck yes. Mandy's a masterpiece. And then so we injected that into the movie, and then we were like, well, what's our production company actually going to be when we launch the movie? And we were like, I think we all just kind of had the same idea at the same time.
Nice. Okay, I get it. I like it. And you're right, Mandy is a masterpiece. And I don't do hard drugs anymore, but my favorite movie to do hard drugs to used to be Hobo with a Shotgun. And then I said, wow, if I would have known about Mandy, that would have been my favorite movie to do hard drugs to.
You don't even need to do drugs. You just watch the movie. And
you just watch the movie. You just watch the movie. Sometimes you need a little bit of the ultra violence, a little Clockwork Orange, something like that in the background. It does help the senses. But again, that's from a long time ago. Don't do drugs, kids. It's not great for you. It's not good. It's not fun or funny. Just, stick to the basics, drink a little water, smoke a little weed, make some movies, the fun stuff. All right, cool. So I did want to do one last thing that we do with all our guests before I let you go, Ian. And I want to make sure everybody knows that you're going to be able to see Everyone Dies by the End. You're going to hear about that movie in festivals, both locally and internationally. And my prediction is the people that fail in this industry, both actors behind and in front of the cameras, are the people that quit. This is a movie. This is an industry for lifers. This is an industry for people that want to make art, that want to continue to make art. And when I talk to somebody like Ian and your crew, I get the feeling that you're somebody that's going to continue to make your art for as long as you can. And that to me breeds improvement. And that breeds a tight crew, good movies, good ideas, a good circle of production friends. And I think eventually, the movies are going to keep getting bigger, and you guys are going to hear about this guy a lot, hopefully, in the world of cinema moving forward. And hopefully people will be able to catch my cameo in his film when it comes out. We'll have you guys back on, hopefully have the rest of your team. So again, man, I do appreciate you coming on, but you guys are watching Ian Tripp here, and hopefully he won't get too big for us once he gets, if Everyone Dies gets into like 32 festivals, it's gonna be like oh, you want to do second unit directing for my Fast 11, Lou? Sure. Go get some B-rolls of cars crashing. I'll talk to you later. I'll be like, yeah, sure. Sign me up, buddy.
That sounds like a sick dig.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah, dude, I'll take B unit director any day. Like how Iceman says to Maverick. Yeah, you can ride my I'll be unit direct for you any day. All right, so we do got to get to the one thing that we always do with all our guests, and that is something that we like to call pause for effect.
All right, boys and girls, you know what that sound means. It's time for bracket bid. Bracket bid. Bracket bid. Woo, 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 woo. Bracket bid. Bracket bid. Woo, 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 woo.
Fireside Chats.
That is right. It is the end of the interview, which means I can safely light my joint because I don't have to remember things much longer. And we can do what we like to call the bracket bid. Bracket bid is created for maximum pain by myself. I'm going to give you two different options. You're going to tell me which one of them moves forward. And I always try to find something that my guest is a fan of. Since you are a fan of strange, cultish movies, we have created a bracket bid that is called The Strange and the Funky.
Okay.
I'm going to give you two strange and or funky movies. These are not the strangest and funkiest of all time. These are the ones that I'm familiar with, and I wanted to see how you feel about it. You tell me which moves on. Now, whatever methodology you want to use is up to you, Ian. I'm going to give you the movies. You decide. So you can say which one of these movies, if I had to watch one of them right now, would I watch? Which one has a bigger impact? Which one do I, whatever methodology you use is up to you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. In the first spot, we got my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies, Hobo with a Shotgun and The Lobster. And if you want to expand on any of these, like the reason you love them, because The Lobster is also one of my favorite movies. Also, I could have put The Killing of the Sacred Deer here as well. Kind of like that.
That movie I think trumps The Lobster for me, actually. Killing of the Sacred Deer. That movie is so good. It's
that thing where they're speaking English, but it's like English written by like a non-English speaker, and it's just kind of like I love that aspect.
And it's like purposefully melodramatic material that's played monotone.
Yeah, it's right up your alley, I believe. So you're going with The Lobster?
Yep.
I love Rutger Hauer. This is Hobo with a Shotgun, probably the best Canadian movie of all time.
All right.
Zarian's favorite, Gummo or Man Bites Dog?
Dude, Gummo is one of the few movies to genuinely disturb me because I questioned how they made that movie at points. It genuinely feels like they had to have murdered some cats.
Yeah.
And Man Bites Dog is genuinely just really entertaining. I'm gonna go with Man Bites Dog.
I still eat my spaghetti in the bathtub myself. I mean, it's a vibe, baby. Spaghetti in the bathtub.
It's like this weird post-apocalyptic Midwest movie, right? Where like a tornado hit the town.
Mm-hmm. And now he's doing like 7-Eleven commercials, which is strange, but fuck it, make that money.
Really?
Yeah, he did the 7-Eleven commercial where it's all the Mexican chicks and they're like standing outside the 7-Eleven and cruising down the street after they get their big gulps. Yeah. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that was Harmony. A Clockwork Orange or Suspiria?
A Clockwork Orange is my favorite movie of all time.
All right. Being John Malkovich or Blue Velvet?
Blue Velvet's also one of my favorite movies of all time.
All right. Dogtooth or Martyrs, the French version, not the American remake?
Martyrs. That movie's twisted.
Yeah, it's whenever somebody's like, "Hey, I need something horror that I've seen everything," I'm like, "Have you seen Martyrs?" Because that'll just have you questioning your existence for 2 hours after you watch it.
That'll like give you a hot flash while you're watching.
Yeah, yeah. It's uncomfortably, but it's also very good. Eraserhead or Inland Empire?
I appreciate Inland Empire, but it's one of those watches like we talked about where it's more like homework. Like it's like 4 hours long, standard definition handycam. And Eraserhead is just like such a classic gothic masterpiece.
Eraserhead moves on. And Pie or Mandy?
Mandy all the way.
Audition or Itchy the Killer?
I'm gonna go with Itchy the Killer.
Audition is my favorite movie to recommend when people are looking for a romantic comedy. I just feel like, you want something about intense, deep love? Watch Audition. Oh, yeah. Requiem for a Dream or Scanners?
Scanners is one of those movies where it's like, it's got the iconography, but like actually watching it, it's not a great movie scene by scene. You know what I mean? The acting is pretty flat from the lead actor.
It peaks early, too. It peaks early.
Yeah. And
it's like you're hooked in, and then all of a sudden it just like kind of like...
If it was entirely Michael Ironside's movie, it would sing for me. And Requiem for a Dream like totally works for me like in every way. It in hindsight, it is a bit after school especially, but it works. And I'm gonna go with Requiem.
I love Requiem so much. It's one of my favorite movies that's difficult to rewatch. Mm-hmm. It's like another one is like City of God, which is like which is an incredible movie, but it's got so many harsh scenes, and you're just like, I love that, but I don't want. It's like Schindler's List too. Like, it's a brilliant movie that you just kind of want to watch once or twice, and that's it. All right, moving on. We got Pink Flamingos or Memento.
I'm gonna go with Memento just because it's easier to watch.
All right, the original Old Boy or They Live.
Old Boy.
Swiss Army Man, which is a newer, or Wicker Man.
Swiss Army Man is just so good all the way through.
It is really good. It's
weirdly wise and philosophical and just charming and like depressing and devastating. It hits everything. Like it makes you laugh and cry.
Yeah, and I mean it's he was the same guy from There Will Be Blood, right? The actor.
Yeah, Paul Dano.
Okay, got it. Oh yeah, got it. I was like, what's this guy's name? Yeah, might have been better. Might have been better than in There Will Be Blood in Swiss Army Man. And Tusk or Naked Lunch.
I'm gonna go with Tusk just because I've seen it more times. It's like brought me back to it more times than Naked Lunch. But Naked Lunch is a cool watch for sure.
I think you hit it earlier, which is one of the best things about Tusk was that it got made. You know, like I love that it's just an idea that came up and it was just like, fuck it, let's make it. I hope they make Moose Jaws as well. They make it's like Jaws but with a moose. And in Canada, okay, Donnie Darko or Happiness.
Donnie Darko, one of my all-time favorites.
The Lighthouse, Newer Fair, or Irreversible.
Lighthouse.
Videodrome or The Fly. In an all body dysmorphia.
Cronenberg, aren't they?
Yeah, it's an all Cronenberg, and then there was an all Lynch one up here too, I believe, as well.
No, there wasn't. Was there?
Was it? Isn't Inland Empire Lynch?
You're right, dude. Okay.
Yeah, Yeah. Hey, there's a method to my madness.
They're both such great body horror movies for very different reasons. The Fly is just a good, really simple, straightforward script. It's just I'm gonna go with The Fly.
Yeah.
Videodrome's good to watch when you're like not trying to like figure out a movie.
The Fly is an excellent watch for efficiency with a difficult subject. It's like you said, it's a very simple, straightforward. There's no plot twist other than the ones that you know are coming and the stuff that you're learning along the way. But it is very basic, but it's also very well done.
It was in that era where the 80s were taking B movies that were not that great, but were pretty famous and just making them actually good movies.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think, like, unfortunately, right now, like you said, it's like the weather, it changes, but hopefully we can cycle back to more mid-budget movies, because I think everything's either not it's an IP, but we're gonna make it a TV show for prestige, or it's a tentpole and we're gonna put $200 million behind it. You know,
Yeah.
the ultra low budget where we would be operating, you know, 2 to 5 to 10 million. Those are kind of like what I hope makes a comeback. I don't know why they would spend $90 million on a Batgirl movie that tests horribly, although I think they should have still released it, versus
I would watch it.
I would still watch it. I would still watch it. I'd watch it before I watch fucking Ezra's Flash. I know that much. Why, if you weren't going to take those $90 million, just find 18 filmmakers, give them $2 million each, $2.5 million each, and you're going to have, out of those 18 movies, there's going to be 4 or 5 of them that are fucking awesome. The rest will be whatever. Just make some fucking new shit. Anyway.
Like the way studios used to work.
Hey, look at that. All right, everything that is old will be new again. All right, let's go back to the top here. We got The Lobster or Man Bites Dog.
I'm going to go Man Bites Dog.
All right, so lobster question. What would be your animal?
Maybe like a deep sea creature predator where no one's gonna fuck with me, but I can like roam around like the deep dark depths of the earth.
Yeah, no, I like that. I was gonna say sea turtle because they live to be like 100 and something, or they could be like,
yeah. That's why he picks the lobster, because
sea turtles seem pretty good, but then I was like, yeah, but sea turtles gonna get eaten by like whales and sharks and shit like that. So I don't know.
For the movie.
Yeah, true. Or maybe just be a mosquito, just be a little bloodsucker. I don't know. That's like, all right. A Clockwork. You said these were 2 of your favorite. Clockwork or Blue Velvet?
Fuck.
You could be like, you know, if you're gonna watch one right now.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go with Clockwork Orange, just because it's like one of those movies that like it gets you. Like the first act of the first half of the movie, like the first 45 minutes, is like setting up that this is the villain of the movie, and then the rest of the movie turns him into a victim, so that when he gets rehabilitated to be his normal self by the end, you're like completely lost sight of what that's what Kubrick does. Like by the end of Full Metal Jacket, when they're killing the girl in the tower that's sniping them, you're like, she killed those dudes, but like they're the ones that are the invaders.
Yeah, it's always good. Filmmakers give you that ambiguity and lets you sort of question yourself. Yeah,
it gives you the devil's advocate characters in the story, and then lets you do what you will with it as a viewer. And that was like the movie that told me like movies can like be about things other than like Jedis.
Yeah, true. I find it also interesting, like if your first like real big screen films were like the second trilogy, Star Wars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like where that entry into the film world sort of makes kind of, if that sort of also affects you. Like I said, I started with E.T., Jaws, stuff like that as well, like all the Spielberg and stuff like that. So it's also interesting, like when you start. Go ahead.
The Spielberg came off the era also of like taking B movies and elevating them. He grew up off of the serials, and that basically all of his stories from like the 80s were serial adaptations.
All right, so Clockwork moves on, and then we have Martyrs or Eraserhead.
Eraserhead.
Mandy or Itchy.
Mandy.
Requiem or Memento. These are kind of similar films a little bit, kind of like that mood, that color palette.
Yeah, it's a similar era, right? Late 90s. I'm gonna go with Requiem just because I've watched it more times. It's like brought me back more times.
What's the thing that they chant? We got a winner. We got a winner.
Dude, when the
Uh,
fridge comes to life, so
oh my god, dude, that whole I mean, yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man. Cinema and kind of what people are able to create. Speaking of which, this is something that I bring up once in a while. And I think I forgot I wanted to bring it up early. Do you believe that there's like an established language of cinema, and that for filmmakers you are free to use what people have created to come up with your own thing, or do you feel that because it's the whole homage versus ripoff, or being an homage versus being derivative, etc. thing? But do you believe there's like for example, sometimes I'll bring the example of painting, right? So Picasso is one of the first cubists, and he sort of came up with cubism is this, right? So does everybody that ever wants to sort of paint in the cubist fashion just ripping off Picasso, or is there space for other masters that can take that to another level, or do something like that? Long dissolves, tracking shots, shots of people's feet. I don't know. There's this language of cinema, right, that's been established, and we study it. And it's hard for you to say, well, hey, I want to do a tracking shot just like in the master, but then also make it your own, right?
Yeah, I think so there's a couple things there in that question. One of them is that like the lexicon of like filmmaking and film styles it's like I said earlier with the scientific method, you're adding something to the zeitgeist of filmmaking. So you're adding a tool in a way to operate. So I think everything that's come before should be used as a palette in some way, at least to understand what you're using it for, and that you have it in your toolbox for when you might need it, so you can understand how to most dynamically operate with your movie. And then and the other thing is just that everything's made up. So I would say, learn the rules and learn techniques, but don't be so dead set on it, because by not watching tutorials on how to get cinematic shots, you might get something else that you wouldn't have thought of if just from being told how to do something. You might do something out of the box by just being kind of bold and ignorant and just going out and making a movie not knowing how to make one. I think that's important too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing we said earlier was like the shot for shot remake of Psycho is like, that's an exercise, right? If you're going to use them in practice and say, I want to recreate, a scene from XYZ movie,
Right.
That's fine. When you veer into derivative or straight out stealing is when you combine that with the ideas and you pass it off as your own. Whereas if you make it different, if you take that as an inspiration and you use it as a jumping off point to something that's original, that's where I think it's homage. I got shit for my movie for Slapworthy because I had a scene that started off with the same dialogue as Mallrats, because it was two people in a bed, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to do like a mirror of the Mallrats scene to start this off before the conversation veers off. So the first couple of lines is just the Mallrats, the scene where Shannon Doherty's breaking up with them and stuff like that, and they're in their bedroom, and she leaves. And then it sort of veers off and it's its own thing. But I did it as an homage because I was like, even my room looks similar, everything. It was fun. So people are like, oh, that's from Mallrats. I was like, yeah, I know. You really think that I made like all my movies and grew up and I don't know that that's from Mallrats? But I think that people can see stuff like that and be like, oh, or you can see the Reservoir Dogs tracking shot and the Swingers tracking shot,
Or Boogie Nights is formatted exactly like Goodfellas.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think the argument is whether the authorship is unique to you using the impression of what inspired you and then inputting it and outputting it into something new is, I think, maybe what is that question.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also whether you're doing it, like you said, whether if you're passing it off as your own, but if it's obviously inspiration for something new, then I think you're fine. And then the other part is you can also do stuff like that as an Easter egg. Like a line of dialogue or stuff like that people in the know will get, Anyway, sorry, side rant over. Getting back to the bit. All right, we said Requiem and over Memento. Old Boy or Swiss Army Man?
Old Boy is just such a classic.
It's a fucking classic and probably one of the best twists in movie history. really. Like,
It's just so
if you-
heartbreaking, but compelling. Yeah.
yeah.
Great.
And if you haven't watched Old Boy, make sure you watch the original version. Do not, under any circumstance, watch the Spike Lee remake, please.
And don't watch it dubbed. Just you want to hear the performances.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can't watch stuff dubbed. I couldn't watch Squid Games or
Back in the
anything like that
OG
dubbed.
Netflix streaming days, Old Boy was on it, only English dub.
Oh,
I had to buy a Blu-ray.
that's horrible. That's not cool. That's not cool. That's a first world problem, but either way, it sucks.
Well, I got
it's still pain, you know.
Yeah.
Tusk or Donnie Darko,
Donnie Darko is also a classic and a masterpiece.
The Lighthouse or The Fly.
The Lighthouse, just because it's like brought me back to it. Like I made a movie very much inspired by the aesthetic of that. So I'm gonna go with The Lighthouse.
All right, and then going top to bottom to top, Donnie Darko or The Lighthouse.
Donnie Darko.
Requiem or Old Boy.
Old Boy.
Eraserhead or Mandy.
Oh fuck, dude.
It's getting tough up here. This top of the bracket, each of these could be a final.
I'm gonna go with Eraserhead because it's a movie that's been with me longer.
Okay, all right. So frequency bias for The Lighthouse, not frequency bias for Mandy. Interesting. This is why the bracket bid is a science experiment.
Man up against Eraserhead though.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You know, like I said, the bracket bid is created to cause maximum pain. Man Bites Dog or Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange.
All right, this is gonna be a tough one. Clockwork Orange or Eraserhead.
Dude, Kubrick and Lynch were fans of each other, by the way.
Did you hear the story about Lynch, where he was walking in New York, and then there was some kids doing like a PSA or something for film school, and he was just sitting there like smoking a cigarette or something, like watching them, and then they're like, and he's like, "Do you mind if I look through the?" And then they're like, "Yeah, please go ahead." And he just sat there and like worked with them for a little bit, and like helped them set up their shot and shit. Yeah,
That's so cool. Okay, I'm gonna go with Clockwork Orange.
All right. Now you said it was your favorite movie at the start, so it's gotten through a lot of tough competition. Old Boy or Donnie Darko?
Donnie Darko.
Donnie Darko. And is it enough to unseed A Clockwork Orange?
I don't think so, man.
No?
No.
Kubrick. The Dawn of Man.
Yep.
Apes around the monolith. Cue the music, Luke. I should have had that queued up.
Yeah.
I should have. The overused musical cue.
Clockwork.
Right? Nice. I always ask people biggest omission. What funky or strange movie do you think that I missed that you were expecting to see? If any.
I don't know. I was pretty satisfied with that.
Because we talked about a bunch of other ones, but some of the ones that were on here we did mention, like that we had talked about during the test. So I was like, oh yes, interesting. Oh yes, Mandy.
Maybe like some like Tim Burton stuff, like Ed Wood is one of my favorite films of all time.
Yeah, Ed Wood is definitely.
Maybe like some Sam Raimi, like Army of Darkness or something like that.
Okay, got it.
I definitely like pulpy, campy stuff too.
Got it. Yeah, I remember I went to see Ed Wood by myself in Miami when I was visiting some friends, and I was like, man, this is my favorite movie. And then that got me into the actual Ed Wood, and that was when we do competitions, one of our side names is Ed Wood Film School. Yeah. So because I always just the whole thing with just where he's like the big guy walks through the door frame and he knocks it and he's like cut. But
you want to go for another take, Ed? It looks like the big guy's having some trouble.
Yeah, in real life, he'd have trouble working with that door every day. What do you mean? He's of course, that's fucking good. What are you doing?
One of my other favorite lines in that movie is, "I got 46 scenes to shoot tonight. Don't get goofy on me."
What's the most pages you ever shot in a day?
Most pages we ever shot in a day? Maybe like 10.
10? Okay.
Nothing crazy.
I think we've done like 15, 20 at some point.
Yeah, that's intense. That's a whole movie right there.
We go pretty insane. Yeah. Alien Story we shot in 2 days. and that's 30 minutes. So that was like
Which one was it?
Alien Story, the sci-fi comedy.
You shot that in 2 days?
Yeah.
Was it all in one location?
Yes. Yeah, 90%. Yeah, it was at Ty's old studio before it was shutting down. He's like, "Well, we're out of here in 2 months," and he's like, "How many dates do you want?" And I was like, "Give me like 4 dates," and then I just figured out what I was shooting. I was like, "I'm using the studio while we can." So we ended up was like, "All right." I had that idea for a long time under sci-fi for if we ever did it for like the 48 because I didn't have a lot of sci-fi ideas. So we were just like, "All right, for sci-fi, what if it's like there's an alien invasion?" But the aliens are hot, and then they're gonna destroy us. But as long as we don't have sex with them, we're fine. But we just can't help ourselves. So we just under sci-fi, I wrote, "Don't fuck the aliens," and then we never got. So that was written down like on our master sheet for like 4 years when we were doing the 48, and we never got sci-fi. So when they were shutting down the stadium, the studio, I was like, "Oh, I'm definitely doing something like that," and I wrote it. Everybody but one person signed on without seeing a script. I had like 20 actors, and I was like, "Hey, I need you for this, and they're like, I'm in. And then I just wrote it. We shot it. That was it.
That's the loyalty of making movies with your friends, man.
Yeah, because I think that there's the part timers, and then there's the lifers, and then there's the work, and then there's your film crew. Like your film crew, it's like you don't.
Yeah, people come into your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime.
Oh, there you go. You should get that tattooed somewhere.
Nope.
If you win an Oscar, you got to get that tattooed somewhere. All right, just do that. And then just put an Oscar behind it, like there. There you go.
I'll put it in my bathroom.
Have you ever practiced your Oscar speech either in the mirror or while you're taking a shower?
No, but my driving instructor when I was 16, her name was Juanita, and she asked me to promise that I would include her in that speech.
Okay.
And I haven't forgotten about that, Juanita.
No, mine changes. I've been practicing mine since I was like 16 as well. But
I'd probably riff it. I'd probably go off the cuff and just do something generic and just like thank everybody I worked with. And
very nice, very nice, very nice. Well, Mr. Tripp, you've said it all. We've talked about Children of Celluloid, Everyone Dies by the End, and we got real nerdy talking about movies and indie filmmaking, which was fun. So again, everybody will go watch Everyone Dies by the End, and then follow Ian, let him know what you think, and hopefully it has a nice long festival run, etc., etc., etc. My friend.
Thanks, dude.
No, thank you. And thank you everybody for watching. Make sure that you guys leave a comment, like the video. This will also be live on the anywhere you get your podcast by looking for Fireside Chats with Big Chief Burrito, Spotify, iTunes, etc., etc., etc. I will see you guys Thursday. We will be doing Mi Gente show with Sophia, and I will keep trying to do as I'm looking for my ending video here, and and we will be doing hopefully more Fireside Chats at least every other week as I do Mi Gente show on Thursdays. I'll try to do Fireside Chats on Tuesdays, and then that way I'll be putting out more content. So thank you, everybody. Ian, stick around for a second. This is a 30-second outro video, and I'll be back to say goodbye. But everybody else, peace. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.